In Chapter 4, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, attitudes, and happiness, and how that all plays together and comes into being in terms of ourselves and also our interpersonal relationships that we have. Your learning objectives on page 91. Explain how emotional intelligence contributes to effective human relations. Understand the components of attitudes and how they are acquired and changed. Appreciate the importance of job satisfaction and positive attitudes. Pinpoint why organizational citizenship behavior is so highly valued in the workplace. Understand the nature of happiness and how it can be acquired and enhanced. So let's talk about emotional intelligence and then what we mean by that. It refers to the ability to perform emotional tasks, okay? And basically the ability to accurately perceive emotions, to understand the signals that emotions send about relationships, and to manage one's emotions. A person with emotional intelligence would be able to engage in such behaviors as sizing up people, pleasing others, and influencing them. Many career beginners have good cognitive intelligence, but emotional intelligence takes a long time to develop. However, I can tell you, because I just read an article in one of my other classes this week with my class in leadership regarding the fact that there are managers out there that realize how important emotional intelligence, having these skills, is to the workforce and the organization, that when they interview, they actually try to gauge whether a person has a high level of emotional intelligence, and they prefer to hire that person over someone that really doesn't have it totally developed yet or would have to develop it, because it's that important. In fact, one manager said he would hire a higher EI, or emotional intelligence person, over a higher IQ person if the choice was there. Obviously, they still have to be intelligent enough to do the task, but he basically values emotional intelligence that highly. We're on page 92 and 93 in the book. Key components of emotional intelligence: self-awareness. If you have emotional intelligence, you definitely understand your moods, your emotions, your needs, and the impact of your emotions on others. Self-management, you're able to control your emotions. You're not a person that flies off the handle when you get mad. Doesn't mean you don't get mad. You're just aware of the fact that you're getting mad, and you keep yourself in check when that happens. Emotional intelligence, folks with emotional intelligence have social awareness. This includes empathy for others and having intuition about work problems and intuition about people that they work with around them. Relationship management. They have interpersonal skills. They pretty much are very clear communicators. They're able to disarm conflict, and they build strong personal bonds with others. The consequences of emotional intelligence, if you have people on the staff that have it, or you have a high level, and this is something that can be developed. If you have a high level of emotional intelligence, it contributes to dealing with your feelings. You're able to better manage, understand, and look at yourself and what you're feeling and why you're feeling and how you're feeling. For high emotional labor jobs, emotional intelligence contributes to job performance. If it's a job that really uses a lot of emotional aspects in doing the job, allows for emotional contagion or spreading of positive feelings in the workplace. With low emotional intelligence, more difficult to cope with job insecurity, can lead to negative coping behaviors of anger and verbal abuse if someone doesn't have a high level of emotional intelligence. So these are all things that are consequences of having that. Acquiring and developing emotional intelligence, yes, it can be learned to a degree, almost like a musical talent. Some people have a natural talent, and that's always a good starting point. Biological endowment plus training will enable most people to develop emotional intelligence. It's best to focus on one component at a time, such as maybe anger management training, which is a piece of emotional intelligence, but not all of emotional intelligence. Concerns and cross-cultural considerations to keep in place might simply be part of traditional intelligence. The concept is so broad, it covers all of personality. And it does, pretty much. When you look at all the things that are contained under emotional intelligence, it pretty much covers all aspects of the personality. And this is basically sometimes a criticism of the idea of emotional intelligence, is that it might simply be part of, regular intelligence or traditional intelligence, and not, if you can read the feelings of others, aren't you just smart? Well, yeah, it's good, but not everybody can read the feelings of others. And not everybody has that insight or that intuition. And not everybody can control their own emotions. So these are all things that come into play with emotional intelligence. IE should take into account motivation of the individual as well as setting or context. A person might not want to display emotional intelligence. Displays of emotion might be more okay in some cultures. That's very true. In some cultures, and I don't mean necessarily yelling and screaming, but here, if you go into a business meeting, everybody wants to get right to the point. If you need to, you do introductions, then you do the meeting. In some cultures, especially Asian cultures, that would be insulting because you don't come into the meeting, and first of all, in most cases, you're not on time to the meeting, and that's very acceptable. When you do come into the meeting, you socialize, and you talk, and you work your way around to the meeting. To just jump into the meeting is considered rude. So depending on where you're at, it's quite reasonable that displays of emotion could be acceptable in certain cultures. The components of attitudes and how they are acquired and how they change. We're on page 94 and 95. Attitude, a predisposition to respond that exerts an influence on a person's response to a person, a thing, an idea, or a situation. Okay, that's the definition in the book in terms of what is an attitude. So what are the components of attitude? The cognitive component is the knowledge a person might have about an object, person, thing, or situation. The affective component is the emotional connection with that object or task or situation. The behavioral component is how a person acts. The three components are interrelated, with change in one causing change in the other two. Therefore, it changes the attitude. Moods are short-term responses to stimulus. Cognitive dissonance occurs when pieces of knowledge, attitudes, or beliefs held by an individual are contradictory and they don't align. Cognitive dissonance alters the relationship between attitudes and behaviors, helps reduce internal conflict. And there's a picture in your book on page 95 that shows the attitude of an individual, and it kind of shows you the cognitive aspect, which is the factual knowledge on a subject, and then based on that factual knowledge on the subject or the cognitive, you have the behavioral action taken on the subject, and you have the affective, the emotion about a particular subject. All three components make up an attitude or attitudes. How attitudes are formed. Attitudes are based on experience. A direct instruction from another individual could create attitudes, good or bad. Conditioning contributes to attitude formation. Cognitions, thinking about things, can play a role in how attitudes are formed. If you concentrate on, I don't know what I think about that, you'll eventually work through things and form some kind of an attitude, one way or the other, about the thing you're thinking about. Personality trait of optimism predisposes a positive view of person, places, and things. If you already have the optimistic personality trait, you're going to tend to be a little more positive in your attitudes in terms of when you view places, things, or people. But all of these areas, this A, B, C, D, and E, are how attitudes can be formed. Positive attitudes, obviously, have always been the foundation of effective human relations. And this is the belief of Dale Carnegie, the pioneer of the popular approach to human relations. He emphasized such truisms as don't criticize, condemn, or complain. And he also stated, talk in terms of the other person's interest. So attitudes basically, come into play, of course, when you're dealing with other people and when people are dealing with you and how you are perceived by other people. The components of attitudes and how they are acquired and changed. The importance of positive attitudes. Well, I just mentioned Dale Carnegie, and that a positive attitude is positive psychology, positive organizational studies focus on positive attitudes. Positive attitude can help job performance and company productivity. When people are happy, when attitudes are good, everybody, is working, job performance is quicker, as well as you have, in some cases, work commitment is there. So people perform at a higher pace. Caution, putting on a happy face can lead to stress, burnout, and job dissatisfaction. If you're just putting on a happy face and you don't really feel that, it's just an act, that in itself is going to stress you out, burn you out, and eventually you're going to feel very dissatisfied because you feel like you have to put on this happy face when you are not really happy at what you're doing and where you're at. So we saw how attitudes are created, but can you change an attitude? Yes, if you reverse the process by which they were formed, such as information from a trusted source, if you reverse this process, you have a chance of changing an attitude. Learn to look at positive or negative aspects of situations. Basically, depending on which way you look at that, you're either a pessimist or an optimist. If you want to change your attitude and you're always looking at it as the pessimist, is the glass half full or half empty, you need to start catching yourself doing that and look at it and say, no, it's not half empty, it's half full. Where we choose to focus our attention can lead to attitude change very easily. It also helps to maintain a list of positive things that happen during the workplace and during the workday that you can go over, that also help you look at aspects of your attitude and possibly point out the good things that have happened that can help change attitude as well. Obviously, if you have job satisfaction, you usually have a good attitude. In many cases, if you have a good attitude, they're tied together. Okay? You contribute to better customer service, better attendance, less turnover, higher production. If you are satisfied at your job, you're not going to miss work. You're going to be a happier person to your teammates, to your management, and to any of the customers you service. Fun and happiness on the job always helps if you enjoy what you're doing, and it always keeps attitudes up and positive. Job satisfaction stems from positive interpersonal relationships in the work environment. People don't leave companies. Usually when they get upset and they leave leadership, or they leave the culture of a company. And the culture of a company is determined by the leaders that run it. So it's not really the company they leave, it's people. So those interpersonal relationships are very important in terms of job satisfaction. If it's a good fit with the organization, it's exactly what you want to do. Their ethics and their beliefs are extremely similar to your own personal ethics and beliefs. It's a very good fit. That's going to bring even more satisfaction. Meaningful work. They give the example of zookeepers. For a zookeeper, that's meaningful work. If you don't like animals, then probably being a zookeeper wouldn't be meaningful work to you. So it's going to be different for everybody. Let's talk about organizational citizenship behavior and what we mean by that. This is on page 99 in your book, Organizational Citizen Behavior, the willingness to go beyond one's job description to help the company, even if such an act does not lead to immediate reward. You believe in what you're doing and you like the company and your attitude is great about the company, that basically you go above and beyond when you need to, whether you're asked or not asked, whether you're paid or not paid, whether it's recognized or it's not recognized. So if you look at the slide, go beyond one's job description to help the company without promise of reward. OCB stands for Organizational Citizenship Behavior. Helps company in a variety of ways. You're always the one that, oh no, I'll do that, or I'll do this, or you just step up and do it. No one has to even know you're doing it. You just do it. You take care of it. Personal support dimensions of organizational citizenship behavior have 4 dimensions: helping others, courtesy, cooperating, and motivating. The problem with having too much organizational citizenship behavior from an individual is that they're so into helping and doing and motivating and being cooperative and doing other things for the company that they may neglect their own work. And you know people, but these are the joiners. These are the people that are always involved in everything, and they're the ones that tell you about everything that's going on, positive, mind you, in the company, and they go to, the company picnics, and they're involved in the committees that are going to, roll this out to the employees. All this is fun, and they believe in the company, and they want to do it, but sometimes they are so busy being the little busy bee that they neglect their own work that has to be done. That would be a downfall of organizational citizenship. The components of attitudes and how they are acquired and changed. Personal support dimension of organizational citizenship behavior. And this we just covered on the page before. These are the 4 components. They just kind of drew it out, which is located on your book in page 101. Helping, courtesy, cooperating, motivating. Helping, a person focused helping includes self-esteem maintenance and other personal problem-solving behaviors. Courtesy, in general, courtesy involves showing consideration and tact in interpersonal relationships. A person who cooperates on the job willfully contributes time, effort, and resources to accomplish joint tasks. That's cooperating. If you go to page 102, it finishes up with motivating, and their definition as related to organizational citizenship behavior is basically that motivating behaviors under this include applauding the achievements and success of coworkers, encouraging them when they face adversity, and helping them overcome setbacks within their own personal jobs or departments. A lot of people that interview like employees that basically have a level of organizational citizenship behavior, or they've shown that at their old company, and it shows when they interview, because these are the people that get, kind of other people involved, and they're very infectious if they believe and they're happy and they're joiners and they're committed. That spreads to other people within the organization. Happiness is a goal of virtually all decisions we make. There's a typo in the slide. I'll have to fix that. Obviously, we like to make decisions that make us happy, not sad. And basically, a measure of a good decision is whether it leads to well-being, pleasure, happiness, joy, contentment. Happier people fare better in health, career, work. They work harder, are more socially engaged. That goes without saying. When you know people that are unhappy and are miserable or are very, very stressed, it eventually does take its toll on their health, especially stress. Stress can have just a lot of negative consequences to your health and welfare. But when people get real negative and they're not happy, in some ways, they become more reclusive. They don't often have that socially engaged personality. If it's work that's the problem, they become a little negative and they're not working as hard as they might be if they were happy and really, in sync with what they're doing at the job. Happy workers have higher productivity, higher customer loyalty, and of course, if you have both of these things, you're going to contribute to profitability or the return on investment and bottom line. This again is on page 102 and 103. Research and opinion on the topic indicate that people can take concrete steps to achieve happiness. Happier people have a better physical health, they live longer, they achieve more career success, they work much harder, they're more caring, and they're more socially engaged. So obviously, the happier you are, the healthier you are, and basically the more good karma that's out there is going to turn around and also hit you. You're going to do better in your career, you're going to do better in your health, you're going to do better in your social relationships, all the way around. The spheres of life and happiness, as discussed on page 103. Happiness can be considered a byproduct of various components of life working in synchrony. Visualize 6 gears with teeth spinning in unison. Imagine that life has 6 major components, and this picture is on page 104 in your book. Exact components will differ among people. We all have maybe different components, but we have components, and for most people, the components probably follow the following areas. You have a component that's work and career. You have a component that's your interpersonal life, including your family, your loved ones. You have a component that obviously is your physical and mental well-being. A component that is your financial health, so that you financially are solvent enough to live comfortably. You have another component that could be your interests, your hobbies, your pastimes. And many people also have a spiritual life or a belief system that is a component of this kind of sphere life model. The idea, of course, is that all of these components are connected and they're all turning at the same time, but they're all working in unison. And therefore, all areas of the wheel are being maintained, and therefore you're happy because they're all acting together. When you end up with a clog in the wheel is when you end up having something come up that happens that clogs that can cause unhappiness, or is something that you may have to look at and readdress to get everything lined up again in synchrony and working all together. You basically need ample satisfaction in all the spheres to attain happiness. If you have 5 of them together, let's say, work and career are great, my interpersonal life's great, my financial health is good, I have interests and pastimes, my spiritual and belief system are intact, but I, am physically and mentally ill. Okay, I physically have cancer, or I am mentally just so exhausted mentally that I can't get up to do half the things that I like or enjoy. It's going to affect that, not only that sphere, but it's going to affect other things within the sphere of life of happiness. So the idea is that all of these wheels have to be turning and working together, and all have to be equally balanced for you to be happy. And you know that. I mean, this is not, any brain new knowledge here. This is, you know it. When you spend too much in your work and your career life, your interpersonal life suffers. Okay? If you're spending too much in the interpersonal life and you have a working career, then you're going to start seeing some things change in your work and career life. Obviously, if your physical and mental health aren't there, you really don't enjoy any of these other spheres if you're not feeling well. If you have these other spheres, but you don't know where your next meal's going to come from, that's going to create havoc in your life, and you're not going to have that happiness. So it does all play together, and it is a balance. Here's the sphere that they show you in the book. Just those little clogs all have to be turning and all have to be working at the same time. And when one of them isn't working, it clogs up the whole thing, and it has to be addressed to get everything back in tune and back in working order. So what are some of the keys to happiness? And we're looking on page 105. A, give higher priority to the pursuit of happiness. Discover what makes you happy and make time to pursue those activities. Really think about it. What do you enjoy doing in life? Whether it's career, whether it's hobbies, whether it's spending time with your family, and then make sure you make the time to do those things so that you have the time to experience the things that make you happy. Put intentional effort into being happy. It doesn't sometimes just happen, particularly with the lives we lead. Our lives are fast and furious. We're always running from here to there. We go to work, we come home, we pick up the kids, we go to a game, we come back from the game, we have to get food on the table, we have to get everything in bed, we have to go to the grocery store, we have to drop this off the cliff. I mean, when do you have time? We live in a society where it seems like we're always racing. So you have to purposely think about putting an effort into being happy and making that time to pursue some of the things that make you happy. Seek satisfactory outcomes from decisions rather than looking to maximize gains. Look for reasonable outcomes that lead to happiness. If you hope for reasonable outcomes from your decisions rather than attempting to typically want the best possible outcome, you will be happier. Obviously, if you can get the best, possible outcome, great. But if you always try to get that when you can get, basically a best outcome and still be happy, why not do that? Okay? You'll be just as satisfied and you won't get all stressed out trying to reach just the absolute best outcome that can be for this particular issue. The keys to happiness: develop and maintain friendships with happy people. There's nothing like being around a person that's a downer, because they will bring you down. If you spend a long enough time around them, you are going to find that they rub off on you, and you are going to start to sound like, negative Nelly yourself. We've all had those people in our life. I call them bone-sucking sponges. They kind of suck all the anything emotionally you have out of you, because they're just always, they're always the victim. Always something is wrong. Always something is negative. And they just By the time you get done talking to them, you go home, you're exhausted. You're mentally exhausted from dealing with people like this. Why spend time around people like that if you don't have to? Sometimes we have to, but if these are going to be friends, surround yourself with friends that energize you, that make you feel good, that make you happy, that you have fun being around. Not someone that by the time you go home, you're absolutely exhausted from the interaction you had with them. It's just it's not worth it. Life is too short. Positive interactions with people facilitate being happy. Getting connected to happy people improves your own happiness. Each additional person in your network makes you happier, as long as you keep your network full of upbeat, happy people. All of these things can enhance happiness. Develop a sense of self-esteem. For those of you that have low self-esteem, if you work on your self-esteem and get a higher self-esteem level, you will find that you are a happier person. That shows to those around you. You will also draw happier people into your inner circle. Developing this sense of self-esteem, a higher level of self-esteem, enables one to love and be loved. Okay, you love yourself, you have a positive outlook on yourself, that kind of, shines out of you, and you start to attract the positive people around you. Better not to give top priority to financial success. Some people do. For some people that's really important, but the problem with giving all your priorities to that is if something ever happens and you find yourself in a situation where you don't have that financial success, then you're really miserable. Or if everything in your life has been driven toward that and you don't get there, you've not developed anything else along the way that makes you happy or that you love, and then you don't succeed at what you're wanting to do financially, you're going to be a very unhappy person. Appreciate the joys of day-to-day living, or as they say, smell the roses on a daily basis. Exciting events can become routine if you don't do this. Savor what you have right now. Look around you. Even on a bad day, there's something beautiful, there's something positive, there's something that can make you smile, there's something that can make you laugh. Appreciate those little things, even on the days when you're having really probably one of the worst days you may have had. The keys to happiness: be fair, kind, helpful, trust others. I know sometimes it's hard to do that, particularly if you trusted others and that trust was betrayed. But don't bring that baggage into new people. Not everybody is like the person that may have betrayed you, so until someone breaks that trust, try to give trust to others. The golden rule is a true contributor to happiness. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, is the golden rule. Helping others brings personal happiness as well. If you want if you just do something on a daily basis, help somebody by opening the door and helping them in, that makes you feel good. Some people do a lot of work with nonprofit organizations to help do different things. Then that makes them feel good. Whatever makes you happy, whatever brings you personal happiness, are the things that you need to make sure you take time for in your life. You have to have recreational fun in your life as well. It's not all about being inside. Do things that, if you enjoy camping, go camping. If you want to take a trip with the family, take a trip with the family. Happy lives are lives that have fun, zest, joy, and delight. Novelty contributes to happiness. Don't overplan. Sometimes the things you just wing at the last minute are the things you remember, and they're the most happiness that you feel in a situation versus the things you may have planned step by step. So allow yourself to be a little flexible. Learn to cope with grief, disappointment, setbacks, and stress. That's life. No matter how happy you are, no matter how well things are going, things happen. Life happens. Sometimes that life brings disappointment, sometimes grief if something happens where we maybe lose somebody we love. Sometimes there's setbacks in our career or in our education, and there's always stress. No matter what you're doing, there's always some stress in your life. And the best thing, and what we'll cover later, is learning how to be able to cope with and some things to kind of help you de-stress. Because life, as wonderful as it can be, and all the great things out there, also can be very stressful. Face problems without being overwhelmed or running away from them. And of course, those that run from them, they just kind of pile up, and then it becomes overwhelming, and you're not a very happy person when you are feeling overwhelmed by everything in your life. Persevere in attempting to overcome problems, no matter how severe that problem feels, no matter how much you feel backed in the corner and you can't see a way out. Take a breath, relax, sit down, think about it again. Do something that makes you feel like you're at least making baby steps to overcome the problem. Continue to persevere. Coping helps one appreciate day-to-day joys. The keys to happiness: energize yourself through physical fitness. Any kind of exercise helps, even if it's taking a walk with the dog. You know, you have endorphins going, dopamine, muscle relaxation. All of this makes you feel better. Those endorphins get going and you're a pretty happy person. Satisfy your most important values. First, understand what you do value, and then make sure that you satisfy those values, because that will also make you happy. Sometimes satisfying your most important values are much more important than seeking pleasure. Religious people are happier, particularly in societies under stress, because of their beliefs, okay? They satisfy their most important values. So keep that in mind. Earn enough money to do meaningful things and avoid misery. Okay, you want to obviously have money so that you can pay your bills and feed your family and experience some things that make you happy, but don't make money the bane of your existence. Because then when you don't have it, or you're always trying to get it, you're missing out on some things along the way that can make you happy. Life's too short. If you make money enough to be able to give to others, that's even great, and that'll make you feel good. But again, don't make this the ultimate goal and that's all you can see and all you can do, because you're going to be so eager in trying to attain that goal that you're going to miss out on a lot of things along the way. Lead a meaningful life. Happiness is the byproduct of working toward meaningful goals. We can all be happy and we can all work at being happy. Sometimes life gets fast and furious. Life is always stressful. So it becomes learning how to deal with those stresses in life so that you can enjoy the things that make you happy and you're not stressing yourself out. This is pretty much the end of the chapter, is going to lead a meaningful life. And then basically, again, I highly encourage you to read the summary and review on 109, because they do a nice job of highlighting the main points of the chapter. So now that y'all know how to go out and make yourself happy, I expect you to do that all week this week prior to the quiz, so that when you take the quiz, you're happy little campers.